Panel discussion. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. It is my pleasure to welcome you all today. My name is Irina Pinchuk. I am a professor of psychiatry, Director, Institute of Psychiatry, National University in Kiev, Ukraine, Country Director, ITTC, Ukraine. Today I will moderate. Our panel will speciality focus on advancing global prevention initiatives, standardization, innovation, cultural adaptation. We have 5 presentation and 6 speakers today, and I hope we will have time for discussion, questions and comments. So let me now introduce the first 2 speakers, Mrs. Renata Habinakova and Elizabeth Novakova from Czech Republic, Department of Addictology, First Faculty of Medicine, Charles University, currently based as junior researchers at the Department of Addictology. Area of interest are prevention science, quality assurance, prevention education, drug addiction. Presentation topic, interactive platform for mental health support and prevention of risk behavioral in the Czech Republic. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to tell you about our project with acronym IPREV, which means Interactive Platform for Mental Health Support and Prevention of Risk Behavior. The idea of this project started about 20 years ago with the development and forming of the national infrastructure in prevention. Professor Majovsky will talk about the background tomorrow, so today we would like to say something about the content and functions of this platform. So IPREV is an online website that digitizes the results of this long-term work based on an open access and evidence-based approach. It forms a bridge between research and practice and provides facts to a wide professional community and public, general public. This is how the homepage looks like. For now, it's only in Czech, but we plan to translate it into English. So IPREV is a modern tool to support prevention professionals, especially for schools, but also for external providers of preventive programs, other relevant professions, stakeholders, policymakers, but also for parents and caregivers and for students, for whom it's also a source of evidence-based information. IPREV promotes the principles of community-based prevention and connects schools with providers. Our goal is to create a user-friendly environment that cultivates prevention in schools in a way that is truly effective, economically achievable, sustainable, attractive to the target group, and safe at the same time. So on the platform, we pay attention to the whole spectrum of risky behavior. You can see some of them on the slide, and also to mental health. And in addition to the mental health of children and adolescents, we also focus on well-being of educators, parents, and caregivers. On this slide, you can see some of the reasons for the development of the platform, and after the COVID, the need for this tool was even more intensified. For example, high prevalence of mental health problems in children and adolescents, and low capacity of specialized care, and lack of legislative support, lack of tools for quality assurance, and so on. So IPREV has three main components. The first one is a data bank of evaluated prevention programs offered in the Czech Republic. And users can filter these programs by age of the target groups, topic, cost, evaluation, length, and program difficulty. We have, I would say, strict criteria for selecting these programs. We have a committee to assess these programs. They must be evaluated. The lecturers must have adequate education and training. We evaluate the quality of the methodology and, for example, suitability to the target groups. So anyone who is interested in being placed in this data bank must fill out a form with all these informations. The second component is the education of pedagogical workers and professionals in prevention. The platform offers online courses such as INEP in his 8 and 40 hours version. We also advertise courses from providers, and we provide a calendar of events. There are conferences, workshops, and so on. We also organize webinars on current topics, such as hexahydrocannabinol, kratom, nicotine pouches, and other. And we are also invited to podcasts to talk about these topics. We also provide information on supervision, including a map of supervisors, materials on international curricula in prevention, and more. And the third component is quality and safety in prevention. In this one, we will disseminate the results of the projects on quality. In prevention, we created a methodological tool for school on how to choose a safe and effective program, how to implement it in practice, and how to manage the quality of prevention in general. IPREV also integrates SEPA. It's a national system for monitoring and evidence of prevention activities in schools. Platform offers also glossary of terms, a bank of evaluation tools, study materials, as well as contacts for people in need, and information for parents and everyone who is interested in the topic. IPREV is not only an online platform, but mainly people involved in prevention. You may have noticed our logo, which carries its own meaning. It symbolizes the networking of our partner institutions that are important in the prevention of risk behavior in Czech Republic. And representatives of these organizations form the project's expert council, so they participate in important decisions and direction of the project. We have managed to establish cooperation with ministries. We are part of many working groups, for example, for evidence-based intervention or for the revision of national standards in prevention, and many others. We often meet the practitioners and get feedback from them on what are the current issues and challenges in prevention. We visit regions, national conferences, schools, and workshops.
IPREV digitizes a lot of projects that have been realized within the department in a way that is understandable and acceptable for a target group. The main base of the information on the platform is taken from a series of projects that lead to prevention infrastructure in the country. We also disseminate results from the huge European projects Phoenix EU that was focused on implementation of quality standards and quality assurance overall in DDR areas. So for instance, we are putting the subtitles in short video spots that were made within the project, and they explain why standards are important, and they are colorful, catchy, and easy to understand. Another relevant project is COPRISC. It ended in the end of the last year, and it was about community prevention activities. It was realized in 3 communities in Czech Republic with high rates of risk behavior and quite difficult socio-economical situation, and the topic is emerging, and we hear a lot of feedback. People are quite interested in steps we made, so we are also doing a series of webinars about this. The department is also involved in Project WAVE, Workforce in Addiction, so that's something we will share in the future when we get the results. We have worked on topics on the platform based on feedback from prevention workers and teachers, and current issues are, for instance, psychoactive drugs without prescription, kratom, nicotine pouches, suicide prevention, or ineffectiveness of scare-based tactics and prevention. However, we are also trying to cover topics from mental health support, such as sleeping hygiene, well-being during studies, and stuff like this. These days, you practically don't exist if you don't have social media, so we have Facebook and Instagram. And on Instagram, we have mainly young followers, students, so there we post some mental health awareness posts. And on Facebook, there are slightly older people and teachers, parents, so there we try to share some interesting webinars, events, conferences, or something like this. And after some conference or meeting, we see that the community is growing and it's more interacting, so it's important for us to meet people. For the content of the platform, the feedback from the practice is crucial. Lately, we've been getting the hints that practitioners would like to get more evidence-based information about how to work with children and young people who use extensive amount of energy drinks. And we know that many countries are dealing with this in a moment, so if you have any ideas, just let us know, because there is not much evidence about that. Also, we are planning to share information about how to involve families more into prevention and activities leading to good prevention. A year of pilot, or now it's a year and a half of pilot operation, has shown what the main needs and challenges are. Our vision is to have a larger team that is multidisciplinary. Now we work with experts in legislation, marketing, social sites, and IT support. And we would like to continue to expand the community. We are getting the state support. We have to apply for the grant, and it's great, but the stability of one-year funding is not ideal at all. So we would like to provide other forms of funding for next years. Big thing for us is, of course, sustainability of the project, promotion, visibility, and PR. Also dealing with new topics such as new psychoactive substances, changes in patterns of use, self-harm, or gender dysphoria. Those are also emerging topics in Czech Republic. The sad fact is that we are lacking the specialized services for children and young people, and there is a really high prevalence of problems in mental health in young people. So there is a need to engage families, schools, stakeholders, and communities, and to build the activities on evidence. And I would say the biggest strength that we reach is being able to engage in important partnerships and being part of a group of people who really can put more pressure and make some changes. So I think that's something that we were successful in. And tomorrow, if you are interested, there is a second part of the presentation that will be held by Professor Majovský. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Renata Habinakova and Elizabeth Novakova for your presentation. Next, our speaker, Dr. Fernanda Dalmezzo-Camera. Dr. Fernanda Dalmezzo-Camera graduated in psychotherapy from the Lutheran University of Brazil, specialist in cardiorespiratory physiotherapy from the Santa Casa de São Paulo, master in science from the pulmonary rehabilitation program from the Federal University of São Paulo, and doctor of science from the health 2016, professor of the psychotherapy course for 18 years. She has experience in hospital psychotherapy and cardiopulmonary, metabolic and post-COVID rehabilitation, for which she is the coordinator of the rehabilitation outpatient clinic. She works in the URI Medical School as a professor responsible for the circularization of the extension of the general medical clinical discipline, where she supervises the academics. She has coordinated the PREVDRUGS program of basic educational for 4 years, and the coordinator of the master's and doctorate program of the comprehensive health care. Dr. Fernanda Dalmezzo-Camera, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. Boa tarde a todos.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Gostaria de dizer que estou muito feliz em estar aqui representando o Brasil neste momento.
I would like to say that I'm very happy to be here representing Brazil today.
E vou apresentar o programa PREVDRUGS, que é um trabalho que eu realizo na universidade da escola onde eu trabalho.
And I'm going to be presenting today a work that I do in a school that I work with and working on prevention of misuse of drugs.
Sabe-se que a transição da infância para a fase adulta, os adolescentes experimentam diferentes mudanças biológicas, cognitivas, emocionais.
So we all must know that, we all probably know that there is something that happens for children when they're transitioning from childhood to teenage years, and things change for them. Not socially and cognitively.
Essa fase é um momento importante para a adoção de novas práticas de comportamento, ganhos de autonomia, mas também de exposição a diversos fatores de risco.
This phase is very important, adopting new practices because of the behavior and autonomy of the children.
Como o uso de drogas.
Like the use of drugs.
A prevenção das drogas
The prevention of drugs
deve ser realizada na fase da pré-adolescência.
Must happen. I'm sorry, I'm very nervous. Must happen when they're teenagers, when they're preteens.
Pelas famílias e pela escola.
It should happen among families and schools.
Pois prevenir é a única maneira, explicando, cuidando e evitando que o jovem venha a utilizar drogas.
Because prevention is the only way we have to help them to not misuse drugs.
O diálogo ele é fundamental.
Dialogue with them is very important.
Como objetivos desse trabalho,
the aim of this work
tivemos como avaliar o conhecimento sobre drogas,
was to evaluate the relationship with drugs
e a relação parental de estudantes do ensino fundamental 2 de uma escola.
And the relationship of the students with their families during primary school and secondary school.
Desenvolver ações de educação em saúde na prevenção das drogas.
And working in education to prevent the use of drugs.
proporcionar experiências de relacionamento inter e multiprofissional entre acadêmicos, professores e estudantes.
And provide experiences of inter and multi-professional relationships between university students, teachers, and elementary school students.
E desenvolver a capacidade dos estudantes
Develop students' ability
de conversarem com suas famílias e professores sobre as drogas.
to talk to their families and teachers about drugs.
Este estudo foi transversal, analítico, observacional.
And this study was a cross-sectional, analytic, observational study.
Iniciou em agosto de 2022 e finalizou em julho de 2023.
It started in August 2022 and ended in July 2023.
Foi aplicado, então, um questionário
So we used a questionnaire.
curto e online,
It was online, it wasn't long.
onde os estudantes avaliaram o conhecimento deles sobre a droga.
And the students got to evaluate their own understanding of the use of drugs.
Para esse estudo, então,
So we studied
tivemos uma amostra de 320 estudantes.
320 students answered the questionnaire.
160 estudantes dos sexto e sétimos anos.
What number? 160 students from year 6 and 7,
E 170 estudantes do oitavo e nono ano.
and 107 students from year 8 and 9.
Todos tinham o termo de consentimento livre e esclarecido,
All of them knew what they were doing,
assinado pelos pais e responsáveis,
with consent of parents,
e o termo de assentimento, onde o aluno mesmo assinou a participação.
and we had the consent of the students to do this.
Em relação à bebida energética, nós perguntamos aos alunos e todos eles disseram que conhecia o que era.
So we spoke about energy drinks, and all the students knew what we were talking about.
Destes alunos, então, 67,6% já tinham provado bebida energética.
Out of all the students, 63% of them had tried energy drinks,
E 41,9% disseram que usavam a bebida.
and 49 of them said that they used regularly.
Destes alunos que usavam, observou-se uma relação importante, onde os amigos e as famílias destes usuários também usavam.
And we saw an interesting relation between the children that used energy drinks and the families that used energy drinks, the adults in the house.
Dos estudantes que usavam, observou-se que 56,1% usavam algumas vezes e 36,8% somente nos finais de semana.
We noticed a difference of numbers between those that used regularly and those that only used on weekends.
Quando perguntamos aos alunos sobre se eles falavam com os pais sobre a bebida energética,
Then we asked the students if they ever spoke to their parents about that, the use of energy drinks.
52,9% relataram que não conversavam.
And 52.9% of the students never spoke to their parents about it.
E 47,1% conversavam.
And 47.1% of them did have a conversation with their parents about energy drinks.
Destes alunos que não conversavam, alguns relataram que gostariam de conversar com pessoas da família ou alguém da escola.
Out of these students that didn't talk to their parents about energy drinks, they told us that they would like to have this kind of conversation with their parents or a responsible adult.
Em relação ao narguile, observamos que quase 90% dos estudantes sabiam o que era.
Regarding hookah, most of the children knew what we were talking about.
9,3% dos estudantes disseram que já tinham utilizado e 90,7% disseram que não tinham nunca usado.
9.3% of the students had used already, and 9.7% of them never used.
Observamos também uma relação importante dos estudantes que usavam ter na família e ter amigos também que usavam.
And we saw again an interesting relation between the students that had used hookah and the families that they had members in their families that had used hookah as well.
Dos estudantes que não usavam, observamos então que existe uma porcentagem de 10,9% que teriam interesse e vontade de experimentar.
And out of all these students, 10% of them, 10.9% of them would like to try it.
Nesse slide, podemos observar então algumas palavras.
So in this slide, you're going to see several words.
Todos os estudantes escreveram uma única palavra que lembrasse no momento em que eles pensassem o que é o narguile.
When we spoke about hookah with the students, we asked them to write down the first word that came to mind.
Podemos observar que de todas essas palavras, nenhuma delas é positiva.
And what we came to see was that all the words written were negative, not a single one was positive.
Cada palavra, quanto maior o tamanho dela, foi o número de citações dos alunos.
So you see the difference between the words. The bigger is the font, the most was the response from the students repeating the same word.
Perguntamos então aos alunos em relação ao conhecimento e uso do cigarro eletrônico.
So we asked them about electronic cigarettes.
Observamos que 12,2% já tinham utilizado e 87,8% não tinham utilizado o cigarro eletrônico.
12.2% of the children had used electronic cigarettes and 87.8% haven't used.
Observamos também que houve uma relação significativa dos estudantes que usaram ter amigos e familiares que também usam.
One more time we saw the relation between children that have used the electronic cigarettes having someone in the family or friends that were using as well.
Aqui também verificamos uma porcentagem de estudantes que têm interesse em experimentar.
And again, we see 8% of children that wanted to try it.
Em relação à pergunta, então, aberta que fizemos aos estudantes para que eles escrevessem uma única palavra quando pensassem na palavra cigarro eletrônico. E da mesma forma, todos escreveram algumas palavras e nenhuma delas é positiva. Todos eles sabem, então, que o cigarro...
So we notice again with the game that we had, with the activity we had with the students, where they had to write a word about electronic cigarette. And again, we saw the same result, all of them saying something negative about it. Not a single word was positive.
Em relação às drogas em geral, perguntamos aos alunos se eles conversavam com os pais em relação a este assunto.
The students were asked about other kinds of drugs and if they had any kind of conversation with their parents about it.
69,8% relataram que conversavam, mas 30,2% disseram que não conversavam.
69.8% of the children had a conversation with their parents about drugs, but 30.2% never spoke to their parents about it.
Dos estudantes que não conversavam, observamos uma porcentagem bem alta de alunos que gostariam de conversar com seus pais e não conversavam.
Out of the number of students that never spoke to their parents about drugs, 71.1% of the children would like to have a conversation with their parents or responsible adult about drugs.
E os alunos relataram que eles gostariam de conversar com os pais ou alguém da escola.
And these same children said that they would like to have a conversation with their parents or someone from school about drugs.
Depois de toda esta análise, então, destes resultados, que para nós foi muito importante,
After all the analysis based on the questions we asked the students, we came to a very important conclusion.
Traçamos um plano, então, para que pudéssemos trabalhar com esses jovens.
We came up with a plan so we could work with the students.
Iniciamos, então, uma parceria com o Dr. João Paulo Lotufo, Dr. Bartô.
We started a partnership with Dr. Bartô from São Paulo.
Que trabalha a prevenção de drogas em São Paulo.
And he works with drugs prevention in São Paulo.
E aí começamos, então, as atividades, onde ele, pela primeira vez, foi até a nossa cidade e fez uma primeira apresentação.
And for the first time, he came to visit our school, and we started a program with the children, where he spoke to them.
A partir de agora, segue algumas fotos, então, de alguns trabalhos que a gente realizou.
Now I'm just going to show you a few pictures of some of the events we had with the students.
Algumas atividades presenciais, outras online.
Some of them face-to-face, some of them online.
Aqui temos na foto algumas crianças que receberam os livretos do Dr. Bartô para levar para casa e mostrar às suas famílias.
Here we have a sample of the booklets the children received to take home with them.
Aqui algumas atividades que eu realizei com eles nas salas de aula.
Here are some of the activities I realized I worked with the children in each one of the classes.
Aqui algumas outras.
Some other children.
Todas as atividades foram realizadas do 6º ao 9º ano.
All the activities from year 6 to year 9.
Nós realizávamos as atividades turma por turma.
And we worked with every single one of the classes.
Aqui uma outra atividade realizada com os acadêmicos do curso de medicina da universidade.
And here we had a partnership with students from medicine course from the university.
Nós temos então vários cursos da área da saúde e todos auxiliam no programa PREVDRUGS.
The university has several courses on health, and all the students from the university come to the school to help us.
Aqui uma outra apresentação sobre álcool.
And here we spoke to the children about alcohol.
Nós levamos os alunos no final desta apresentação ao anatômico para que pudessem verificar as peças, né, orgânicas que são comprometidas pelo uso do álcool e do cigarro.
And here you can see the children went to visit a lab to see the results of misuse of alcohol and drugs, what happens to the body.
E aqui, para terminar, algumas outras atividades que também realizamos com os alunos.
And just to finish here, those are some of the other activities we do in the school.
Nós temos a colaboração de todos os professores da escola também.
We have a partnership with every single one of the teachers in the school.
Que trabalham as atividades do caderno do Dr. Bartô.
And they help us by using the booklets and working with the children.
Em diferentes disciplinas, como matemática, português, ciências.
When they're studying maths, Portuguese, science,
educação física.
PE.
E essas atividades elas são realizadas durante o ano todo.
And these activities they happen throughout the year.
Os alunos também acabam desenvolvendo e desenhando, realizando redações.
They do compositions, they do drawing
e desenhos. Todas essas atividades fazem parte do programa.
All these activities they are part of the program.
Aqui eu trago uma foto. Nós temos à direita o coordenador da escola, e que nós fomos premiados então com esse programa como o melhor projeto de extensão da universidade.
And our project received a prize from the university as the best program with the university.
E como conclusão, então, nós concluímos que os acadêmicos, professores e profissionais desenvolveram várias ações de educação em saúde na prevenção das drogas.
And as a conclusion, we saw that the university students and the teachers and professionals developed about drug prevention, providing experiences that helped the children.
e que o programa PREVDRUGS da escola básica teve uma repercussão muito positiva entre os estudantes, famílias e escola.
And it had a very positive impact for the children, the school, and the families.
Por isso, passou a ser um programa contínuo e permanente para todos os alunos.
And it became something the school will be doing always.
Obrigada.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fernanda Dalmezo Camera, for your presentation. And now let me introduce our next speaker, Dr. Zili Sloboda. Dr. Zili Sloboda is a founder and president of Applied Prevention Science International, a not-for-profit focused on training and supporting prevention professionals worldwide. She was trained in medical sociology at New York University and in mental health and epidemiology at Hopkins University Bloomberg School of Public Health. Her research has focused on substance use epidemiology, service research, and the evaluation of treatment and prevention program. Her current focus is on workforce development in the area of prevention and the relationship between training and implementation of evidence-based prevention intervention. She has served on the faculty of Johns Hopkins University Bloomberg School of Public Health, the University of Illinois Schools and Public Health, and the University of Akron. She has also worked at the National Institute of Drug Abuse in several capacities, finally as a director of the Division of Epidemiology and Prevention Research. Dr. Zili Sloboda, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. So we're talking, we just heard some microcosm kinds of things, the prevention activities, and what I wanted to talk about is something a little bit broader and maybe more universal in many ways, about professionalizing the prevention, field of prevention. So, I hope you like my graphics. But when I said my training was in sociology to begin with, and when I was trying to find a good definition of what a profession was, I've stepped back to my early years and found some very good sources about defining a profession. How do you define a profession from everything else? So there are different components, might be more difficult to see. One is having a recognized science-based body of knowledge, skills, and competencies. Another is to have a code of ethics. It's really important. The other is having an authority to make a decision about the field, about what you're supposed to be addressing in the field, and who enters the field and what they need to know to get into the field. And I think very important, and something I think we really need to work on, is having a culture that represents the profession. So that includes not only the workers, but that we share the same ethics, we share the same terminology, we share the same objectives in life. So where are we today? I've been in the field, as you can see, for a long time, and it gives me a great pleasure to look and review that we have a start. We really are doing really well towards professionalizing our field. We have a systematic body of knowledge, skills, and competencies, and I list where these sources of this information come from, both here internationally as well as in the United States and in Europe. We're beginning to have authorities in place that define the problems that we are to address and how to be treated. Again, I list them. We still have struggle about having definitions of the problem. Go from one country to another, it may vary in that, but we're really moving in the right direction. And we moved towards having evidence-based prevention interventions and policies through the registries and through the United Nations International Standards for Drug Use Prevention, which I think has been a very significant impact on the field. And where are we in terms of community sanctions about admissions, licensing? We still are at a point where we don't have standardized training, although we're moving to that, and we'll be talking more about that. And we don't really have any centralized credentialing. You know, if you're a physician you're trained in the UK and you want to move to Greece, there's recognition of the accreditation, the training that you received, your license. It's easy to do, but we don't have that in our field. Not yet. And then, of course, there's the ethics that surround the profession. And we do have sources for that. We have the Prevention Think Tank from the United States that the ICNRC has put together, which is a very elegant instrument. There's the European Drug Prevention Quality Standards, talk about ethics. And I see this as a potential for the ICU-DDR to establish a code of ethics for the field. Culture of prevention, scratching our head. Do we have that? Can we define what that is? And I think that's another thing the field really should work on. So what is prevention? What are the skills, what are the knowledges or the competencies you need to do this work? So I use this schemata. Some of you will recognize this from the Universal Prevention Curriculum in outlining what the workload is of a prevention professional. And in order to accomplish, to be able to do a needs and resource assessment, to be able to look at their needs and resource assessment and then select an intervention that has potential of working in that particular group, to define at least short-term outcomes, and to monitor the implementation of the intervention. Was it implemented with fidelity? And did we achieve the short-term outcomes that we really want? So all of those efforts, that work, needs obviously knowledge and skills. And that knowledge and skills is informed by prevention science, and we finally have a science to form the foundation for our field. How do we put it all together? How do we get that knowledge out there? And of course, that's training. That has been key for every development of any profession, thousands of years. So learning about prevention is looking at prevention science, which means including looking at epidemiology and etiology, talking about theories, and of course, a review, keeping current in the literature in terms of what we're learning, and we're learning stuff every day. And that's what we incorporated in the Universal Prevention Curriculum. So I wanted to just summarize some information about findings from the trainings that we've done, at least our company has done with the UPC. I don't think I have to go through this. I think most of you, right? How many in this room how many of the people in the room do not know about UPC, Universal Prevention Curriculum? That many. Okay, thank you. We all know about it. So I'm going to skip through those slides. I hope you don't mind. But the purpose is the team, I think many of you know, we have some of the team members actually in the room to embarrass me. Bill Crano and Dick Spoth. But we put together a really, I think, a very wonderful team of experts in the particular areas, and they were able to develop their material based not only on their own work and on the experiences they have in the field, but drawing on the most current information in their area. And the list goes on. So let's talk about the training. APSI was involved in training master trainers in UPC, and we trained 80 master trainers from 21 countries through the Colombo Plan and the Organization of American States. CICAD, thank you, CICAD. And these are a list of several of the countries that were involved. And we did a follow-up of the master trainers between the period of 2014 and 2017. And in that period of time, those trainers trained over 1,300 prevention professionals. I put up these because I like some documentation that we've had some effect on the training, that there was some outcomes, that people increased their knowledge. But I was particularly interested in the range of scores, because the smaller the range of scores, you know that people are sharing the same knowledge base. They're talking the same language. And I think that's really key for a profession. So, well, you know, again, a chemist, my father was a chemist. He's from Austria. He was from the United States. He could go United States, Austria, England. They spoke the same language. Weird as it was, they did speak the same language. So that's what we want to achieve in our field. And I think we're trying to achieve that through training such as the UPC. But we also, of course, want to see that there's been an increase in knowledge. And overall, for all the groups, you'll see there has been a, I have to flip through quickly, has been an increase in knowledge across the board. So we did this follow-up survey, as I said, in 2018, and we were just curious to know what happened after the master trainers were trained. What did they do? We got a fairly decent response rate for a professional group, 76%. And these 54 trainers who did respond reported delivering 178 trainings to 1,384 persons. We talked about, you know, what the training that they have, how helpful was it for them to do their trainings, and you can see that they all found it was very helpful. We wanted to know about the trainings that they achieved, what kinds of trainings they did every year, and you can see from this chart that obviously the introduction to prevention science was the largest one, because we recommend very strongly that anyone that takes any courses in the UPC take the introduction first, because all the other courses are based on that. But you can see what the popular courses were. Obviously, physiology and pharmacology was very popular. I was kind of surprised to see that workplace-based prevention intervention curriculum was popular, but of course school and family, which one would expect. And we asked them to indicate what programs were already being provided in their workplace, and by the years, age groups that were targeted. And again, school is the primary place where prevention goes on, as we just heard. We were interested to know, could we do a randomized control trial of UPC training? And Fernando, hello Fernando, our friend from Peru, and Pacific Institute for Research and Evaluation conducted a randomized control trial, and the focus was on the school-based program because that was the most popular. So here you see the listing of the people who were involved. And this, at the bottom is the publication that came out in 2023. And what did we do? It was an interesting design. Those schools were randomly assigned to intervention or control condition. The ones in the intervention schools received full training in the UPC school-based program, and were trained also to deliver unplugged. The control schools did not get the training in UPC, but they were trained to do unplugged. I was a little nervous about this. So what did we find? Unfortunately, we couldn't complete the study as originally designed because of COVID, and data collection became a real problem with students. what did we focus on in the UPC schools is we first asked the schools to develop a prevention leadership action team. Those of you who have taken the course or who teach the course know this. Once this team is developed, they are to address what their policies are, school policies are, relative to substance use and then how you treat infractions. They work on creating a school climate that's positive for faculty as well as students. And then this creates an environment in which to implement Unplugged. So there were two outcomes of interest. One was whether this team was created and whether they followed the process. But we also were interested to know about students' substance use and awareness about policies, and also a very important, as you know, a variable in related to not using substances is being school bonding. So we were interested in looking at those. So we looked at the school, went in the school, but we also surveyed the students. So we found that there was consistency in terms of school policy, school climate, and implementation of school curriculum, and that the school leadership, prevention leadership structure was in place. And then Fernando, I hope you don't mind, but Fernando told me that he just recently visited some of the schools, the implementation schools, and that team is still in place, which I think is pretty cool. You probably won't be able to see this as well as you should, but these are the outcome variables that we looked at for the students, and as again, we said we truncated it. But you can see that, that the controls are in blue, and that the intervention schools were in red, and we can see differences that were statistically significant on these outcome variables. COVID really impacted us, our company, in terms of our trainings, and we wanted to train in the United States. So we had to revise UPC for virtual training and using Zoom and being able to use some of the tools that Zoom offers to enhance particularly the exercises and activities, because we feel that was extremely important. In fact, Maria Luna, who's a colleague at APSI, who's in Madrid, she is going to be presenting at the Lisbon Addictions meeting about technical assistance that we realized during the activities, a lot of technical assistance went on because people talked about what problems they were facing doing their work, and others would say, well, you know, you could do this. And also, we stepped in and helped them. So a lot came out that we unanticipated outcomes that were very positive. We also, because we're in the United States and most of the states have used ICNRC for certifying their prevention specialists. We wanted to know what the match was, and here you can see that the match was very good between their domains and our coverage. In the training, we've trained close to 200 people in the United States, including prevention professionals who were in the United States Marine Corps stationed in Okinawa. And let me tell you, if you think you're challenged doing prevention work in your community, you should talk to them. And I thought it was interesting just for you to see what kinds, they all had to take the basic course, and then they were allowed to they took advanced courses, and you could see what the popular. I was shocked to know that, to find out that they were really interested in monitoring and evaluation, how many people showed up for that. We're not surprised about media, and they're very interested in community implementation systems. And the same kinds of outcomes we saw for our master trainers. We saw increases in pre and post-test scores that were significant. Their overall evaluation was high because we were concerned about that. They like the topics. But of course, what I'm particularly interested in is the two variables here. I expect to use the information gained from this training, and 74% strongly agreed that they were going to, and that they would recommend the training for others. What are the future directions? We renamed UPC because it's updated and it's been made for the United States. We call them Foundations for Prevention Science and Practice. We're planning to do a follow-up study of those we have trained to determine whether they said they think they could use the information in their work. We want to know, did you use it and how did you use it? So that will inform our future training. And we're working with a lawyer now to open an office, our office at APSI in Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zili Sloboda, for your presentation. And now our next speaker, Professor Cho Hyunseob from Korea, Chongqing University, currently a professor in the Department of Addiction Rehabilitation Counseling. For 33 years have operated a research and counseling center in the field of addiction, alcohol, drug, jumping games, internet, smartphone, sex, etc. He is called as the godmother of addiction in Korea, received a presidential commendation, the Ministry of Health and Welfare Award, the Ministry of Education Award, and the Ministry of Culture, Sport and Tourism Award. She served as President of the Korean Psychological Association, President of the Korean Addiction Psychology Association, the President of the Korean Association of Addiction Specialists, and is currently President of the Korean Addiction Convergence Association. Professor Cho Hyunseob, the floor is yours, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Hyunseob Cho, Professor of Chongqing University in South Korea. I am a clinical psychologist.
And hello, this is Yubin Hwang. I am a daughter of her, and I'm also a clinical psychologist in Korea too. I'm here to translate her Korean words into English for better understanding. So,
그냥 해봐. 얘기 좀. 제가 그동안 활동한 내용을 좀 정리를 좀 했는데요. 이렇습니다.
So although the moderator has already mentioned it, I'd like to provide more specific details about myself. This is the picture of what I did. As you can see the picture, I have performed various roles. This photo up there was featured in the news introducing me as a godmother of addiction, and I have served as the president of In All Addiction-Related Association and the Korean Psychological Association, which is the largest academic society in South Korea. Also being Korea Commissioner in ICCE, and she has served as an advisor to various government ministries. And the last part of underneath, it shows the awards she's been getting, which includes government ministries and the President's Award.
이렇게 많이 제가 방송에 이렇게 많이 나간 것을 지금 소개하고 있습니다.
It says that she's been in media over 10,000 times.
네. 대통령상도 받았고요. 중학교 교과서도 썼고 이렇게 신문에도 마약 관련된 사설을 썼습니다.
Like I said before, this is her with the President Award, and there's a textbook that she wrote.
자, 이제 제가 연구한 내용을 발표하도록 하겠습니다. 제가 오늘 발표할 내용은 문제 음주자를 선별하는 검사를 개발한 것입니다.
So the content I'm trying to explain is the development of the screening test for the problem drinking PDST.
이 연구에 우리가 이미 중독이 되면 얼마나 피해가 큰지를 알고 있습니다. 그래서 정말 중요한 거는 중독이 되기 전에 문제가 있는 음주자를 일반인으로부터 발견을 해서 치료를 하는 것이죠.
As we know how severe the addiction problem is, the goal is to develop a tool for identifying problem drinkers before they become addicted. And this was done to adapt the cultural aspect on the scale too.
이때 참여한 참여진은 다음과 같습니다.
The participants were a total of 933 Korean adult men, and among those were 482 general drinkers, 87 participants of drunken driver offenders program, and 31 participants of family violent offenders program, and 133 of alcohol dependent admitted in psychiatry hospital.
분석은 5단계로 진행을 하였습니다.
The analysis went through 5 stages, and I'm going to explain it. The first is from the total of 991 items, including 175 items constructed by this instructor and 5 items from CAGE and the 12 items from NAST. The 46 items were selected. After the initial item analysis, the exploratory factor analysis was conducted on the 46 selected items. To determine the validity of the final selected problem drinking screening test, the items were assessed.
네 번째.
Yeah. And the fourth was to retest reliability of the final problem drinking screening test was evaluated, and lastly, the cross-validation study of the final problem drinking screening test was conducted.
결과는 다음과 같습니다.
The result came out as 20 items. Among those, 10 items indicated problem drinking, 6 items indicated dependence, and 4 items displayed alcohol desire. There are the details of items.
세부적으로 각 구분한 것을 말씀드리면 다음과 같습니다.
There are these 10 items for problems. The first one is I have regretted my action due to my drinking problems. The second one was there have been instances when I could not remember what happened while I was intoxicated. And I have tried to control my drinking but ultimately failed and ended up drinking excessively. The fourth one was my excessive drinking has interfered with my daily functioning, and so on.
My family.
And my family or friends express concern or complain about my drinking. And there's few more.
여러분들 그다음에 디펜던시와 관련된 6개 문항은 다음과 같습니다.
And now these are the items related to dependence.
그리고 알코올 디자이어와 관련된 4개 문항은 다음과 같습니다.
And these are the 4 items related to alcohol desire.
이 자료를 전체로 정리를 해놓은 것입니다.
Now these are the items where I put it all together. These are 20 items.
0점하고 1점으로 점수를 줍니다.
You score them either 0 or 1. No as a 0 and 1 as a yes.
해석은 다음과 같습니다. Score 1, 2.
Yeah, so the score, if you get a score 1 or 2, that means you're a general drinker. And if you get a 3 to 7, that means you're a problem drinker, which we're trying to find. And if you're getting above either 8 or above 8, that means you're alcohol dependent.
결론적으로 다음과 같습니다.
So it has been shown to be useful and reliable in distinguishing problem drinkers. It seems to help identify people who might develop issues and prevent them from becoming addicts.
네. 이번에는 중독자와 관련된 현재 진행하고 있는 사업을 잠깐 소개하도록 하겠습니다.
So we went through this study pretty fast to show you our projects we're doing in Korea right now. These are a national project called Loneliness Project, 24 Cultural Society Connection.
이 사업은 다음과 같습니다.
So this project is started in 2022 and it's still ongoing. been involved in a project addressing loneliness, which is a part of the national agenda overseen by the Office of President. This project benchmarks the UK Ministry of Loneliness Initiative, and currently in South Korea, there are 10 million single-person households in South Korea.
이 중에 중독자가 대부분입니다.
Among those, most of them are addicts, which is why we decided to start this project.
그래서 지금 진행을 5단계로 진행을 하고 있습니다.
There are 5 stages in this project.
스톱. 첫 번째 단계는 발굴을 하는 것입니다.
The first one is we identify who's lonely.
두 번째 단계는 예술 프로그램을 진행을 하는 것입니다.
The second one is we engage them in artistic programs such as art, theater, play, music, and poetry writing.
세 번째 단계는 심리 상담을 제공하는 것입니다.
And third, after the artistic programs, we give them a psychological counseling, individual counseling, or psychological therapy or communication training, or interpersonal relationship trainings are provided to someone who need it.
네 번째 단계는 친한 친구를 만들어주는 겁니다.
For the first one, after the program, we let them to know where they can link with the other people.
다섯 번째 단계는 이들이 사유로 나와서 그 직업까지 갖도록 하는 것입니다.
And the last one is to let them come out of their home and get their job.
그래서 지금 이 그 사람들을 발굴하는 그 시스템을 지금 소개를 하고 있습니다.
So these are the system.
그냥 잠깐.
뭐라고 하셨어요?
총신대학교를 중심으로 학교 이런 데서 발굴한다고.
Oh, so this is her university where she's at. It's starting from Chongqing University, and in 2022 started in her district, and now it's starting with adding 9 districts, and it's trying to expand. And there's as you can see, there's schools, daycare, library, religious institution, community center, college counseling center, pharmacy, and salon, cafe. We're trying to engage them all.
이 사업을 홍보한 내용들입니다.
These are the poster and brochures we made.
지금부터는 그동안 진행했던 사진들을 보여드리겠습니다.
Now I'm going to show you the pictures what we've been doing.
드라마 테라피 프로그램.
This is a drama therapy program.
그다음에 이렇게 다 읽으면 돼요.
Mind molding healing
힐링
program.
프로그램.
And it's a sports and recreation program.
리딩 프로그램.
Yes.
그다음에 파크 골프. 그다음에
And there's a famous painting. You can see the famous painting and you draw it.
그다음에 뮤직. 뮤직 프로그램.
Yeah, and it's a music program. And now this is the psychological counseling support we give them after the program. It's more of a group counseling.
지역 주민 특강.
And there's a special lecture for local resistance.
자조 모임, 친친 모임.
Not just the program itself, it has the after program self-help meetings.
리더 양성, 친친 리더 양성.
Yes, and there's leadership training. Someone who engaged in that program.
로컬 커뮤니티 MOU.
And we also made an MOU with the local community. It's a district pharmaceutical association and district mental health center and district social welfare center.
이건 국회에서 이제 행사한 거.
This is what we presented
이
in National
사업에 대해서?
Assembly about this project.
이때 국회의원들이 26명이 참석을 했습니다.
There were a total of 26 National Assembly peoples joined.
조인.
So additional work she's been doing, she's also in suicide prevention project and also been operated a project which approximately 12,000 artists have received psychological counseling through these 50 counseling centers since 2014, and it's been free for them
10년 동안에
for 10 years.
이 프로그램의 그 전반에는 중독자들이 포함되어 있다.
In this programs, I'm explaining all this because a lot of the people who are involved, they are suffering from addiction.
이 많은 그 사업들은 이 중독자들과 관련이 있고 중독 문제를 해결하는 것과도 관련이 있습니다.
It is very related to with the addiction and solving the addiction problem.
그래서 중독되기 전에 중독자들을 발굴하는 것은 굉장히 중요하다고 생각을 합니다.
So she thinks it's very important to find someone who is about to addicted.
그래서 오늘 발표한 이 스크린 테스트는 굉장히 의미가 있다고 생각합니다.
So she thinks the screening test we just explained is very meaningful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Cho Hyunseob, for your presentation. Our next speaker, Dr. Fernanda Salazar, a principal professor.
You don't have to present me after Zili. Same time.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Which one is yours? We have 1 minute. A principal professor at the Cayetana Heredia Peruvian University. Fernanda started his involvement with substance use and people well-being when he directed 2 national studies for DEVIDA, the National Secretariat of Peru that deals with the drug demand reduction.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
The floor is yours, Dr.
Thank you so much, Irina. I was saying, Irina, you don't have to present me after what Zili says about me. So you know at this moment that I know a little bit about prevention and what to do with this. Thank you so much, Zili. I will present the adaptation and fidelity to the UPC of a higher technician in prevention career in Paraguay. And the co-authors of this are Francisco Jimenez and Maria Asunción Cabral, that are seated in the middle of the room. Raise your hands, please. Maria Asunción, Francisco, all right, great. And how we came to this point? In the year that I was going to Paraguay, there was a lot of concern about substance use and how to have a positive answer to the problem. So in many moments, the government and other organizations were talking about the problem until the last year, in which formally the President of the Republic declared of national interest to deal with the problem of substance use. So everything was in place, except that there were no professionals for prevention. The School of Government and Public Policies, Norberto Bobbio, anticipated this problem. So since 2022, started working with me the development of this career for technician in prevention. So the first discussion was, what are our bases? So now I have to thank Zili again for making my life easier and happier, because we knew that we have the UPC. And at that moment, we have the evaluation of the effectiveness of the UPC to train implementers and have very good results in the implementation of the interventions. So we decided to do that. The first thing was, let's see the structure of the UPC and how is the UPC delivered, and what are the requests of the Ministry of Education of Paraguay to create a new career. So we saw some similarities in this. One was UPC has 3 courses that must be delivered first. So I'll say, okay, we can start for that. And then has the specific intervention for the different environments and different strategies. The career has also the specific or technical training area that was covered in total with the UPC. The optional or elective plan is something that is requested also by the Ministry of Education of Paraguay, and we said we can use that space to highlight some points that we need to be sure that the students are going to gain the competences or skills needed for prevention. And also, in the UPC for implementer, there are practicums. And the career also requests a practicum. The hours requested by the career are 2,500. And the hours for training in the UPC of coordinator request about 250, something like that. And by the experience of the Peruvian project, we knew that for implementation of intervention, we need about 240 hours. So in total, UPC must be around 530 hours, around that. That is less than the hours requested for the career. So there was no problem. If it would be in a different way, it was going to be a problem, but at this moment, no. So we said, okay, we can do this. Now, start with the fidelity. How we can keep the fidelity to the UPC in the career? We put all the courses, and we put the sequence, and we were checking that everything that we need for the career was covered by the UPC, and also taking some other things that we need by request of the Ministry of Education. Let's say Spanish language, Guarani language, that is the second official language in Paraguay, and social reality of Paraguay. Okay, we said, okay, we can also use these courses that are requested by the government to implement the career. And even Spanish, Guarani, are shaped to talk about prevention and substance use. And that is quite difficult, because even in Spanish or English, we talk in different ways about substance use. And Guarani is a different language, even with a different structure, and we are shaping also that thing to keep talking about the prevention, substance use, etc. And Paraguayan reality is just to highlight the problems and the problems that are raised by the substance use and also by the trafficking, etc., to know the reality since the perspective of a professional worker in prevention. When we put all together, we said, okay, we have all the courses in place, and for the practicum, that is about 500 hours requested by the Ministry of Education, we put in the sequence of the implementation cycle. So said, we can do this in a very controlled and right way to have a good professional. So we say, it's the fidelity to the UPC, fidelity 1 is okay. After that, the UPC has the overarching themes. I will not read this. You can read all of this in the introductory course to prevention science for coordinator, and also in the core course for implementers. We say all of these need to be put in place, some of them transversal to all the contents. So we made a mapping of these overarching themes, and we put that in place just to put this in the syllabus of the different courses of the career. Also, UPC has a learning approach that is based in focusing on the real-world problems. The learning approach includes trainer-led presentation and discussion, etc. So the learning approach is also put in the syllabus just to keep in the same way what is intended by the UPC. We mapped everything, and everything was in place, and I can say that the higher technician in prevention career syllabus integrate all contents and overarching themes and learning approaches of UPC. So we say, okay, we are not taking anything outside of the UPC, and the only thing that we are changing is the length of time that we are going to take in the career. The career is a three-year long career, and the UPC training may take weeks. Okay, with all of these things, some kind of fidelity have to be kept that we didn't know about that. Was to present this for the revision of the Ministry of Education. The revision of the Ministry of Education is conducted by technician in education that doesn't know about prevention. So, Maria Asunción Cabral, raise your hand. She was taking care about changes that could be introduced in the proposal. Nothing happened, we were lucky. And then further consideration to keep fidelity for the UPC. Training in the UPC is basically interactive. So we start calling some professionals that were already trained in the UPC. Oops, that were already trained by Plan Colombo in different ways. And we call them and other professionals from Paraguay and start training them to see if they can follow the contents and using interactive teaching strategies. Now we have a group of professionals that have both skills. Now adaptation. For adaptation, for cultural adaptation, we use some of the standards or recommendations that are already published in different papers. And we look for a professional that was feeling all of these things, and she was reviewing specifically cultural adaptation regarding language, regarding the epidemiology of Paraguay, the cultural sensitive aspects of the Paraguayans, for having a program that fits to the cultural aspect of Paraguay. So we said, okay, we are ready for this, and we are pretty close to start the program. Okay. Conclusions. The UPC can be used in its totality for the development of a long-term education, such as a higher technician in prevention career. Fidelity to UPC can be assessed through course sequence, contents, and learning strategies. Cultural adaptation is needed for the effective use of UPC in a multicultural environment such as Paraguay. Maintaining fidelity to UPC with adequate adaptation to local conditions could result in effective implementation of prevention, intervention, and policies. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Fernando. Before the time of questions, thank you so much all our presenters today. Now we have some time for questions, comments. Please. Professor Michalmiowski.
Thank you. I have a question to Zili. And first of all, thanks so much, Zili, for all what you did and what you do for prevention. And I will be always gratitude for all of this work and effort what you are investing in prevention. I have a quite complicated question on you. Since 1884, what was the year of our first professional society, we needed 100 years to professionalizing workforce in treatment. And no doubt, until today, in many countries, it's quite questionable what it really means. Do you think, and the process was driven by service providers and people working in these services, and majority and main pressure was made, and it was bottom up, not by governments. Do you think that we have any chance to make this process faster in prevention when we have so low number of providers, service providers, so low number of people working in this field, you know, because despite the fact that we are training a lot of people around the world, they have no real labor market and position on labor market. It means that there is very limited number of service providers and professionals in many countries. Do you think that we can be faster in prevention? Because first professional societies, 93 in US, 2008 in Europe, and In treatment, 100 years. In prevention, how many years? Can you guess?
Yeah, but you know, one thing that gives me some solace is it took 1,000 years for medical science to be recognized. So I think you raise a really good point, and I've started looking at other professions. I was around with the treatment providers and how that happened, and it was quite a process, and the government was involved. I mean, I think a big turning point was having good outcomes for treatment. They recognized that you could really deal, that there was something here. I think we need to have more of that in prevention. The fact that states in the United States and in the Czech Republic are requiring licenses puts a little pressure on groups. We've talked about licensing providers, and I don't hear a lot of talk about that anymore. But I think that you raise that as a good point. I really think that's something that perhaps ICU-DDR, ISUP needs to begin looking at. So I think we need to look at other professions, see what they had to do, and just speed up the process. I love the idea that you talk about treatment, because it really was a struggle. I remember those days, but it happened. The thing is maintaining that, right? Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Maria Corazon Dumlao, the Chief of the School Health Division of the Department of Education, Philippines. I am thankful and, of course, grateful to see my mentor, Dr. Zili. I am one of the Global Master Trainers who underwent the 8 curricula for the first 8 curricula for the Managers and Supervisors series, and then I was also able to take the core course, the 10-day course for the Implementers series, and then the specialty track. And then in the Philippines, the adopted version for the school-based track was piloted, and we were also the first for the piloting of the credentialing exam. It's good to hear that there are future plans for those trained on UPC. Well, because on our part, we are I also thank Dr. Fernando for talking about adaptation to fidelity. We were able to get funding from the government to ensure that all our national focals in the Philippines Department of Education finish the same 8 curricula, and that there's also a funding so that they can train and practice the expertise to around 1,700 core group. So I think it's a mature group where the USINL, Colombo Plan, and the group of Dr. Zili to go back to. Because, yes, you can finish the course. It takes a lot of time, to be able to finish the curriculum. But for the translation of the different knowledge, like you are exposed to registries, the evidence-based interventions, which are packages that needs to be bought. And you're also exposed to different interventions at the different settings. But these are local initiatives like what have been presented by our other speakers. I think it's about time to gather all of this group of professionals and provide them with more tools. If countries cannot purchase these evidence-based packages, like life skills, BOT-VINs, Unplug, strengthening families, then what can they do, which can be taken to the next level so that it can be given spotlight on research. That's the lowest level of evidence, the best practices. But we have to be very practical on this and come up with different layers of, fruits, the fruits of all of these UPC trainings, the best practices, the different tools, the researches that have been conducted. I think we can go to that direction because we have a great pool of experts. Then we can also go back to them. What happened to them after this training? Were they given positions? Like in the expertise on UPC allowed me to sit as one of the co-chairs for the Global Coalition. And then this can be, this can be highlighted so that our trainers and our trained professionals on UPC will be able to appreciate the big picture of where they are now as advocates.
Great, thank you.
It's wonderful seeing you. And I'm sorry, I saw you come in, and anyway, it really is lovely seeing you. You raised a number of really interesting points, but the one I resonated to is, it's like we're on the same wavelength, is how do we, let's talk about brain surgery. I know nothing whatsoever about brain surgery, but I'm sure there was somebody who developed a technique of how to do the brain, and everybody was trained to do that, right? But eventually, people are just doing those procedures. They're not named anymore. And so how do we move from a named program to delivering the body, the processes, whatever the activities that are a part of that, to communities? And I'm actually struggling with a paper right now. It's called Meeting Practitioners Where They Are. And I see a key instrument in that practice is the international standards, because what's I think is genius about the international standards, and I hope you're blushing, Giovanna, but is the fact that you have the ingredients of those programs. We don't know if there's a half a cup of sugar or a half a cup of oil or what temperature to bake that cake, but I think we can get there. I think we have to start thinking that way. So thank you very much for raising that. And it's great to see you.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we haven't more time. Thank you very much again, all our presenters today. Thank you very much for participation of our panel today. Have a nice day and take care.